Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about life and how to live a good one. Today is February 4th, 2025, and this is episode 306. Today we are talking about 5 different quotes or thoughts that I've decided I'm going to live by this year. These are 5 things that I have written on the whiteboard in my office. They are super short phrases that I have found really helpful as we have finally gotten through the longest month of the year, which is January, obviously, and we're moving on into the rest of 2025. And I'm going to share them with you today because maybe one of them or several of them will speak to something that you are dealing with in your life, and maybe they will help you. But before we get to that, what has been happening on the Lifestead? Well, I have been busying myself with making some ginger candy. I made ginger candy as part of Christmas gifts this year, a hard ginger candy, and they were a big hit. I've had some people that have called me and texted me. They're like, hey, you got any more of that ginger candy? So I decided to make a bunch more. We were out of it at our house as well, and ginger is really good for if you have a belly ache or you're nauseous. If you have a belly ache because you ate a little bit too much or you just have a belly ache, ginger is really good for that. So this ginger candy is a nice thing to suck on when you're like, oh, I got a little belly ache going. So I'm going to tell you how I make my ginger candy in case you want to make ginger candy. So you're going to need 1 cup of fresh grated ginger. Okay, so go to the store, find some ginger root, peel it, then grate it, because grating is going to give you the best flavor. I think you're going to get the most ginger out of it. And then, so you're going to take a cup of fresh grated ginger and 6 cups of water. You can put that together. You're going to boil it or simmer it for about 90 minutes to reduce it by about half. So this is how you're making kind of a ginger tea. You should end up with about 2 cups of liquid when this is all said and done. You can reduce it even more if you want it to be even stronger. Strain it, squeeze out the ginger so you get all the goodness. Then to make the actual candy, you are going to take 2 cups of sugar, 2/3 cup of that ginger tea that you've made. So obviously the recipe I just gave you for the ginger tea is going to give you a little extra. So you're going to be able to make more than one batch. All right, so 2 cups of sugar, 2/3 cup ginger tea, and then a 1/4 teaspoon cream of tartar. You are going to mix those things together, and then you are going to bring it to a boil, and you're going to boil it without stirring till it gets to 300. So you're going to need a candy thermometer for this, y'all. Once it gets to 300, you take it off the heat. You let it sit for a couple minutes until all the bubbles kind of go away, and then you're going to pour it into your candy molds. I have silicone candy molds. They're just tiny little squares, so fill that up. You got to work fast because once that candy starts to harden, it's really hard to pour it out into the molds. So I usually take like a half teaspoon and I'm just like going through all the molds and filling them up. So that's what you do. You let it sit, 15 minutes, half hour, an hour, whenever you remember that you've made candy, then flip it out of the molds and then you've got your candy. When you store this, you can either wrap it up in like parchment paper, or what I have found works pretty well is we just store the candy in a mason jar, but you have to put like some wax paper or parchment paper in the bottom of it, because what happens with these candies is they tend to stick together. And what you can do is kind of shake the glass jar and it will unstick them. But if you're not eating these candies constantly, eventually the bottom is just going to get really sticky and they won't unstick. So we have taken to putting some parchment paper in the bottom so then the candies won't stick to the bottom of the glass, which really helps to be able to still access them. So that's my hard ginger candy recipe. Let me know if you try it. What else have I been doing? Last time I made yogurt in my Instant Pot. I started the process way later than I wanted to. And the first part of the process is heating up the milk in the Instant Pot. It gets it to about 180 or 200 degrees. And then before you add the starter, the yogurt starter to that milk, you need to cool it back down. And you want to cool it to like 110-ish, 115-ish, somewhere in there before you add the starter. And so I had started this process much later than I wanted to. And y'all know I don't like to stay up late. So I was like, how am I going to get this milk cooled down really fast so I can just, do this because generally the yogurt will then incubate overnight in the Instant Pot. That's how I make it. So I'm like, well, heck, I've seen this tip where you can cool down liquids really fast by putting the container the liquid's in a bowl of ice. And then that ice will cool down the liquid, and then I don't have to wait for 2 hours for it to cool down naturally. So I'm like, perfect, I'll do that. I get out this giant bowl. I put the Instant Pot liner thing full of milk into this bowl, and then I surround that Instant Pot thing with ice. And I'm like, all right. Then I get in the shower, and I don't take long showers, 10 minutes top, right? I come back out. You guys, that milk had cooled down from 180 to like 90 degrees in 10 minutes. So I don't know if you've ever used that tip, but I'm here to tell you it works really, really well. Here's the other thing. I posted about this on social media, and a gal responded and said, I never would have thought to put the stuff in a bowl of ice. That's brilliant. I always just put it in a sink full of water. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, so here's the thing. I never would have thought of doing that. So isn't it great how we share these tips? Everybody does things the way they do them because that's how they've always done them. And then there's other ways to do it, and we don't know unless we're sharing our tips with each other. Isn't that great? What else? The cold snap got us really behind on eggs. I was down to one egg from Miguel's because we use a lot of eggs here. And in the cold snap, when we're talking almost 30 below air temps, I was not getting out there fast enough to grab those eggs before they froze and crack. And there are some people who will still use those eggs if they freeze and crack. I'm not going to. You do you. I'm not going to eat an egg that was open in a nesting box. I'm just not going to. That gives me the willies. So if they freeze, they go to the dogs. My dogs love eggs. I'm glad to say that now that it's warm again, we are getting plenty of eggs, and I'm very excited about that. But I was a little scared because eggs are real expensive in the store. So I was hoping I wasn't going to have to buy them. But I'm interested in all the people who always, when eggs get really, really expensive at the store, immediately are like, I want to get chickens. We should get chickens because we don't want to have to buy expensive eggs at the store. And I'm never going to try to get you not to get chickens. I think the answer to most things in life is get more chickens, right? But chickens aren't free. Chickens cost money. So if you're getting into chickens to save money on eggs, you might be surprised. I was looking at two different chick catalogs yesterday, and the cost of chickens now, y'all. We generally incubate the eggs that we have here, so I haven't bought chicks in a really long time, egg birds at least. And oh my gosh, you guys, depending on the breed you're looking at and the number of chicks you're ordering, because obviously you get a discount if you're ordering a lot of chicks, y'all, $5 to $12 per chick for egg birds. What? I remember when people would sell started pullets for $12. So chickens that were already laying, people would sell them for $12 a piece. And customers would be like, oh, I don't know if I can spend that much on a bird, like $12 for a bird. Now you're spending that on a chick? And you've still got to house it and feed it? And it's not going to lay eggs for you for 16 to 24 weeks? Wow. Man. All right, this intro is getting long, so we better get over to the main topic and talk about these 5 thoughts that I'm living by this year. I know that some people choose a word of the year. I know that last year, or maybe it was the year before, I don't remember, I had a question of the year. I think my question was, is this working? So everything that I was involving myself in, I was going to ask, is this working? Is this really working? And when it came to word of the year, question of the year, I didn't really think about any of that this year. But a couple weeks ago, I realized I had started writing a few different phrases on the whiteboard in my office, and they were phrases that I kept repeating in my head at various times. And they kind of helped me with my perspective on some things. And so today I'm going to share those with you in the hopes that you too will find them to be helpful with something in your own life. And I bet they will, because the older I get, the more I realize we are more the same than we are different. So I am guessing at least one of these are going to apply to your life in some way. All right. The first thing that I have written on my whiteboard is Let them, let me. Now, this one right here is inspired by the new book that's out by Mel Robbins called The Let Them Theory. And the basic premise of that book is let people do what they're going to do because you can't control them. We can't control other human beings. And that's not a new concept at all, but there's something about the conciseness of the phrase let them that just really works. Because in all reality, we can't control people, and we know that, but we still try to do it. Even in ways where we say that's not what we're doing, we totally are. We might not even realize we're trying to control other people, but we are. So using this phrase, let them, when other people are doing stuff, it frees you from like this unnecessary frustration and stress. And the reason it's let them and let me, it's because we say let them when people are doing what they're doing, and then let me is where you're going to shift the focus to what you can control in the situation, which is your actions and your reactions, which has always been the thing that you're in control of, right? So this isn't a new concept. So when someone disappoints you or acts unpredictably or acts like a jerk, ask, what part of this situation is actually mine to handle? What part of this situation is mine? Now, the let them theory is not excusing people's bad behavior. It's not telling you that you should stay in a dangerous situation or put up with toxic people. It's simply a million different ways to look at the reality that you can't control other people. And the only thing you can control is what you do about your involvement or your attention with that situation. So I'm going to focus on saying, let them this year and let me. And it's crazy, the situations that have come up that I'm realizing this is totally a let them, let me situation. Because I think when we hear the let them, let me theory, we have certain situations in mind. We're thinking, well, yeah, okay, obviously that would work there. But it works in so many different things. If you follow me on social media, especially if you're in my Telegram group for A Farmish Kind of Life, you will hear me talking about Facebook a lot and how I am having a lot of trouble with Facebook. I am seeing the weirdest things on Facebook. This has been happening since last October. It's almost like someone stole my account, and I am seeing the weirdest stuff. Like my husband has this really great Facebook feed of ice fishing stuff and welding and woodworking and stuff like that. And on my Facebook feeds, it doesn't matter if I'm on my personal page or my Farmish page or my faith-based page or my homeschool. It doesn't matter what page I'm on. If I'm on the main feed for that page, I am seeing quote unquote Asian babes or like some story about some OnlyFans star who wants to sleep with 1,000 guys in one day. Like, why am I seeing this stuff? Why is Facebook serving me this ridiculous stuff? Right? And it was frustrating me so much. I'm like, why is it doing it? Well, guess what? Let them. Let Facebook do that. I can't control that. So let them. So what then I say, let me, right? I need to figure out how I'm going to use Facebook to my benefit and go from there. Like, how can I be involved with my accounts on Facebook where I'm not like upset every time I go to Facebook because I'm seeing something that I don't know why it is in my feed? Like where's my control here? What can I control? And so there are some things that I've done to make Facebook a little less stressful for me. And my choice is to either continue to use Facebook in that way or not use Facebook at all. On it, like, you guys, we're in control here. Use it or don't use it, right? Let them, let me. So if you can get your hands on that book, The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, do it. It's a really great book. It's well worth the read. If you are buying it on Amazon, make sure that you're actually getting Mel Robbins' version of that book, because there's a lot of people that came out with a similar book at the same time with very similar covers, because scammers are real. But yeah, check that book out if you get a chance. The next thing that is written on my whiteboard is trust the story. Now, this is something that I heard about in another podcast, actually. It's about letting go of the need to micromanage every aspect of your life and recognizing that life has its own rhythm and it has its own narrative, even when you don't understand it, even when you don't like it. Sometimes there's stuff that happens and there's a story that is being written through your life, whether you think of that from a faith-based perspective or not. Like, your life is a story. And I like the phrase trust the story because I think it encourages patience. I think it encourages looking at the bigger picture and having faith in the bigger picture. It helps me stop overthinking a little bit and kind of meddling in things that are unfolding naturally. Like, sometimes you just need to let it happen, right? And trust the story is really close to everything happens for a reason. Or kind of thinking about your life as a tapestry that's being woven and you don't really see what it looks like until you back up and look at the big picture at the end of your life. You know, like, everything that happens is the thread and it's all making up this picture, but you don't see it till you get to the end. When you are going through adjustments in your life or tough times or big changes, sometimes you have to learn to trust the story. And I don't think that means you're just sitting back and letting life happen. I think it's more a call to remind ourselves that we're not in charge of the world. We're not in charge of the world. I think we've all experienced things in our life where we didn't understand it at the time. We did not understand why it was happening. And now we look back and we're like, oh, okay, I get it now. Or, you know what, if that really sucky time wouldn't have happened, then this other great thing wouldn't have happened. When I look back at all the chaos it was to get to this farm, like, when we were in the middle of it, I was like, what the hell, right? Like, why is this happening? And then you get to the farm and you look back and you're like, okay, that happened exactly the way it was supposed to. And so there are so many times in our life where I think we just need to trust the story. And that's so hard. It is so hard to trust the story, but that is something that I am trying to get better at this year. The third thing that I have written on my whiteboard is put down the sword. And I have a feeling I might have mentioned this in an earlier podcast, like a while ago, or maybe I just talked to myself about it a lot. Sometimes, I don't know. But put down the sword. Sometimes I feel like we approach situations or conversations like they're a battle. And I don't even necessarily mean that as something that's outward. Sometimes it's just in our head. Sometimes we are overly defensive, half-cocked, ready to go in our head. And that brings so much unnecessary tension and so much conflict into a situation. When you are like ready to fight, ready to prove your point, ready to be like, you're wrong. Or, you know, and it's not, I don't even think it's about being right or wrong. I just like, I feel sometimes I'm just like ready, like I've got my sword and I'm ready. And I think remembering to put down the sword, chill out, you know, like it creates room for peace and for understanding and connecting in a different way. Because if you are like standing there with your sword, even if the other person doesn't know you're holding a sword, you are connecting in a completely different way. And you are mentally exhausting yourself because you are always on guard. And so I have needed to really stop and ask myself in a lot of different conversations. And it's even when I'm retelling a story to somebody, I find that I'm getting all worked up, like I'm holding this sword while I'm like telling this story. Like I have to stop and think, am I carrying a sword here? Am I bringing a sword into this when it is not needed? And maybe another part of this put down the sword is really I just need to work on softening my inner dialogue. Like just calm down. Like I'm a very feisty person in my head. Sometimes not so much outwardly. Sometimes I am outwardly, but sometimes I'm really just a feisty girl in my head. And sometimes I need to just be like, okay, just calm down. Calm down. Put down the sword. All right. Number 4, the fourth thing that I have written on my whiteboard is sail the ship. Every so often I see this quote go around on Facebook, and I don't know if it's attributed to anybody or if like a million people have said it or whatever, but it's basically about ships don't sink because of what's outside of them. It's the water that they let in. And so it's basically Don't let the negativity and the drama and the chaos around you drag you down. So focus on staying afloat and staying steady in the midst of all of the storms that are swirling around you, right? And I like this quote because it's all about resilience, and it's also about having a strong sense of boundaries and sailing the ship. Like when I think about sailing a ship, you are just cutting through the water and you are just going, right? You are wherever it is you're headed to, you're just going, right? And it helps you focus on what's important, not all the noise around you, not all that chaos around you. So sometimes I'll get real worked up about stuff, and then I just feel like I'm kind of sinking, right? It's like I've let all this junk in and it's weighing me down. So when I think about it like a ship, right? Like I've let the water in, now there's a hole and all that junk is getting in and now I'm sinking. So I think when you feel like that, because I'm sure we all feel like that sometimes, the really important thing is to identify what you're letting in. What are you letting in that's sinking the ship? And then you have to figure out how you're going to protect your peace. How are you going to patch that hole so that stuff is not going to get in anymore? Maybe it means limiting news. Maybe it means avoiding unnecessary drama. Maybe it means you stay off Facebook. You know, like figure out what exactly is it that got me to this point where I feel like I'm sinking. What did I let in? What is that junk that's coming in? Right after the presidential inauguration, it was a dumpster fire on social media. It was a dumpster fire a lot of places. People were so angry about different stuff that was going on. And I have a lot of different beliefs that make up my friend list, politically, faith-based, like all sorts of people. And we probably all do. But man, that couple days after the inauguration, I thought if these people in my friend list saw each other in real life, they would tear each other to pieces. And there would be blood. Like it would be, people were so angry and so ruthless. And so like I'm scrolling on Facebook going, I cannot believe some of the things that people are saying. I cannot believe these are human beings speaking to other human beings like that. And I saw enough of that it just really, really put me in a funk. It really drug me down. It was sinking my ship because I was letting it in. So I had to like take a little break, be like, nope, I'm not going to read that. I'm not going to look at that. I'm going to go do something productive rather than look at why people are angry with each other. Identifying what you're letting in that's sinking your ship. What's the worry? What's the drama? What's the anger? What's the thing that someone said? What is the thing that's sinking your ship? And then trying to figure out how to patch that hole so that stuff doesn't get in. Number 5, the 5th thing that I added to my whiteboard, and this is the last thing that I added. It was quite recent that I added this, but it is, you're a dandelion, not a carrot. Now, what do you mean by that, Amy? Well, if you know anything about dandelions and carrots, and maybe for you it's not a carrot, maybe it's something else, but dandelions, we all know dandelions, right? Those little buggers will grow. They will sprout anywhere. They will sprout from a crack in the concrete, right? They will grow anywhere. They don't need perfect circumstances. They don't need the right amount of anything. They just grow. They're just there. They thrive, right? Carrots, on the other hand, at least at my farm, they don't grow well here because we have heavy clay, but carrots can be tricky to grow. They need a certain kind of soil. They need they're not a dandelion, you know what I'm saying? And so maybe for you, it's not a carrot. Maybe it's something else that's been really hard for you to grow that you're like, okay, we need the perfect circumstances to make this plant thrive. So be a dandelion, not a carrot. You don't need ideal circumstances to grow and thrive, Amy. Start where you are and start with what you have. And I think this came up, this dandelion versus carrot thing is, we're going through a big adjustment here with my husband's schedule change. If you've been here a while, you know my husband has worked nights for a gazillion and a half years, probably, I'm guessing 23 years at least. And now he has switched to days. And it's not actual days like you would think. He actually doesn't get home till 8 p.m. And so that is a huge adjustment here. And we are adjusting and it will be fine. But when it first started, y'all, it was an adjustment. The fact that now, okay, most nights I eat dinner alone. Like, I'm not cooking a big meal for anybody. I'm mostly eating dinner alone. So it doesn't matter when I eat. It doesn't matter, let's just have peanut butter and jelly, Amy, and go back to the computer and do some more writing. Like, it's just very, very, and it's not just that. Like, there's lots of things that change when you do a complete 180 flip from one schedule to the other. So there was some adjustments that needed to be made. And change is hard. Like, change is hard. Even if it's a positive change, even if you know that it's going to bring about really great things, change is hard. So I like this quote, like, you're a dandelion, not a carrot, or be a dandelion, not a carrot, because number one, it encourages resourcefulness. Like, what do you got? Okay, well, let's work with that. I think it also encourages gratitude, because it's like, look around. You still have stuff. Like, the dandelion's like, hey, there's a crack in the concrete I can grow right here. Awesome. I'll make that work. That, to me, that just seems like a very thankful way, thankful, productive, resourceful. And it reminds you growth is always possible. A dandelion will grow anywhere, just about anywhere, right? Growth is always possible, even if you don't have the ideal conditions. So I think this is about asking yourself, in the situation I'm in right now, what can I grow? Mentally, emotionally, physically, whatever. What can I do? What can I grow right now with what I have? And focus on progress, not perfection. If you've been through a big change in your life, you're going to be thinking about what was, and you might have grief about that. You might have frustration with how the adjustment is going. Focus on progress. Take one small step at a time instead of focusing on the entire mountain. And don't do it alone, right? Dandelions grow in a million giant patches. If you've ever seen pictures of my yard in the spring, it is like a field of dandelions. There's a million of them. So putting on your big pants and saying, what can I do right now with what I have? It doesn't mean doing it alone. Lean on your people. Lean on your loved ones. Acknowledge your feelings. Maybe you're afraid. Maybe you're frustrated, maybe, like you're sad, like acknowledge that. That's fine. It's okay to have those emotions, but they also shouldn't paralyze you. So instead of thinking, I can't handle this, I can't do this, say, I'll figure this out, because you will. You always do. You always do. Have your time to be angry, upset, frustrated, worried, whatever, and then, all right, we're going to figure this out. Focus on what you can control. And then let go of the rest. And that brings us right back to the first quote in this podcast episode. Let them, let me. You know what? This situation is crazy. Let it be crazy. Let me figure out what I'm going to do about that. I think that's a great way to look at it. All right. So the different things we talked about was let them, let me, trust the story, put down the sword, sail the ship, be a dandelion, not a carrot. So this week, maybe you can pick one that resonates with you most and try keeping it in your brain for this whole week and going back to it and going, oh yeah, that's right. Okay. I'm going to trust the story. I'm going to trust the story. I'm going to put down the sword. I'm going to put down the sword. Calm down, Amy. Put down the sword. I would love it if you guys on social media would let me know which one of these resonated with you most. Or share another quote with me that you're embracing right now. Share a little short phrase that you should write on your whiteboard. And I would love to know why. Like, why is that phrase something that is important to you right now? Share it with me on social media or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. I would love to hear all these quotes and these words that are helping you right now. All right, that is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for coming back here and spending a half hour with me today. I hope this was helpful for you. Have an awesome week, you guys, and I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com. Find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish.